Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Monday, August 12th, 2024. And today we have two finals. We have 018 and we have the final Wildwood Tarot card. So let's do 0 first. This is the cover. I didn't look up the illustrator today. So 018, this is the cover. Tula Latte is the illustrator. Alex Cott, the writer. He's holding his hand, his heart in his hand, right? This book has been Assassin Comics as therapy. I'm trying to figure out how to do this, holding it up in front of the camera. I've been doing it in front of the camera, obviously, but it cuts off the audio, so maybe I'll just talk before I hold it up. This is Assassin Comics as therapy. In the end, he wants the same thing as Anna in the latest Luc Besson movie, Anna, played by Sasha Luss, where she just wants out at all costs. In this one, they have a bacterial phage, so everyone's on mushrooms. That doesn't solve the whole daddy issues. This is really about my dad didn't know what was going on in the world. Okay, so I didn't know I was going to talk about this today. If you guys haven't listened to Alan Watts, you should find him. He was an Anglican priest for a while, and then he went to China and India and Japan and studied Zen and Chan Buddhism and Hinduism. And he brought back, he really kind of was one of the big importers of Zen to the West. He sort of made it make sense for white people. Meditation and all that. This is Allen Ginsberg and his wife and him shooting the cup off her head and accidentally killing her. It actually looks a lot like her. And this is this guy, Edward, eating the spider that is the demon in his heart. This guy hasn't embraced the sort of, he's got this, he pulled this thing out of his mouth, out of his chest. So this guy hasn't embraced the sort of 300 story about everyone has two wolves. A good wolf and a bad wolf, or an angel and a demon, and which one wins is the one you feed the most. This is really sort of a drug trip in how to deal with being thrust into life without asking for it, and all the things you have to do to survive. Survivor's guilt in a lot of ways. This is Edward walking back into town. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but it's definitely starting to get on my nerves. The fans on the computer were running. It's summer, so apologies for the interruption. So Edward Zero is fighting his inner demons, and he's walking back into town. He's getting dressed. Let me hold that up for another moment. I also, in the editing, realized how annoying it is when I flash the page and you guys have to rewind and hit pause to look at it. That's pretty obnoxious. I like this framing where his head is taking up the sun, the sunrise or the sunset. Again, it doesn't really matter because you don't really care about the character. Here are those horses who got frozen a few issues ago, phase change. I suppose we're supposed to interpret this as Edward is now walking free of his past. He has two eyes. Well, does he? Maybe he's dead. Oh yeah, I like this scene down here. So look at the bottom. Like this is Edward Zero's heaven. And if you look really closely at that panel, you can see the rays of sunshine make an M, like a McDonald's logo over one of the windows. There are crosses, like a good Christian home. And then there's the blonde girl on the doorstep with the wind blowing her hair. So this is Edward Zero's happily ever after. I still don't think you should do, it's not on a window, it's just on the house, the M. I still don't think you should do comics as therapy, because the problem with comics is that, oh, here's an ad for a new Alex Cott series called Wolf. I think we're going to do God Country next. I have that whole series, and I haven't read that either. So I don't think you should do comics as therapy. I don't think the readers want therapy as comics. Comics are escapism. I had a whole thing written out yesterday in my little notes that I threw away. The difference between murder porn and rescue porn. And murder porn is like 8mm, Saw, parts of Inglourious Bastards, Hostel, Eli Roth, Blumhouse, Jason Blum. That stuff is, The Purge, is murder porn, whereas rescue porn is Predator. I had a list of these too, and I put it over there. But Predator's the best one of rescue porn. That's what rescue porn really is the good guys. Murder porn is the bad guys doing their bad stuff and in the middle of their campaign. So murder porn is Saw doing 37 victims when the 38th victim is the hero who kills the serial killer, right? We just want to see the rescue porn where the 38th one or the 37th one or the chamber of, the 36th chamber of the Shaolin. Action movies are rescue porn. That's what they are. When Richie goes on a bender in Hard to Kill and Steven Seagal has to chase him down because he killed his partner and he killed a whole bunch of other people randomly in the city. I know I had a better list. I kind of want to grab it. Aliens with Ripley and Newt. That's rescue porn. We don't need to see the one where the horror movie, Jason and Freddy, where all the people get murdered. We want to see the one where the serial killer gets it. That's rescue porn. So that's the difference. And the reason Predator works so well is because you have the baddest ass guys on the planet at military spec ops. And in order for it to be anything more than just another day at the office, it has to be an otherworldly challenge. And that's kind of the stories I'm working on right now. It's so exciting. I just wrote another chapter today. Yesterday I said I had 47 pages. No, it was 53. I think now I'm at like 55 or 56. So I'm cooking right along. At this rate, it would take me about a year to do a 700-page book, which my last two 700-page books took 5 years each. About a decade. So yeah. A lot of writers only do 200 or 300 pages for their yearly book, but fiction is different than nonfiction, where nonfiction is just a series of essays that you write over the year and then you compact them and publish them as one big thing. It's not the same. I couldn't start this until I had the ending. And now I have multiple endings, so it's kind of a braided ending, but it's really more like a finale in a fireworks show. So if you guys want to check out more of that kind of stuff, today's episode is brought to you by Legacy of a Mad Scientist, a story about young Ashley Fox who goes on the run from serial killers, not serial killers, but government agents with her younger brother who try to steal her dad's inheritance to her. And the sequel is Legend of Ashley Fox, where she then doesn't go on the run, but has to unite a bunch of orphan gangs against a group of serial killers preying on the children. And we also have a comic book in the description, a PDF, Ashley Fox, Last Valkyrie. Please check it out. Ashley Fox and Reverend Wolf take on a bunch of kidnappers who are Pizzagating some children. And then she meets Valeria, a Valkyrie, who turns her into a Valkyrie and gives her awesome powers. But this is just the first comic, Ashley Fox, Last Valkyrie. This is way down the storyline. I have about 12 of these plotted out. Right now I'm working on one that is, I don't know. The one I'm working on right now might change this, or this might be a scene in it. I really didn't have it set up that way. Wow, I'm just kind of realizing this right now. Anyhow, today's final, I wanted to do for the Wildwood Tarot finale, I think I'm going to show off every card in the set. We're going to go through the entire deck, so today's going to be a little bit longer than usual. And I'm going to show off every card in this deck because I really did like it. It was really amazing. And today we have the 9 of Arrows, 7 of Bows. Perfect as the last card. Today's card is the 7 of Bows, Clearance. So now you are clear in Scientology speak. You are clear. I don't know if you guys know this about Scientology. I have some time today, since we're doing the whole deck, in the order that they were presented. We're going to see the 7 of Bows again at the end. Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard used to hang out with Jack Parsons and another fellow known as Aleister Crowley, or Crowley, who is a character in Supernatural. There's a guy named Crowley. He doesn't look anything like him. Crowley looked a lot more like the Kingpin in Marvel Comics. And Crowley, so Jack Parsons, how did it go? L. Ron Hubbard stole Jack Parsons' wife and took her out to sea. Crowley was laughing at them because I'm not looking at these, I'm just holding them up so you guys can see them. I don't even know what they are. But this is the order that we looked at them. I'm not going to announce them, that would take forever. But L. Ron Hubbard stole Jack Parsons' wife, and Crowley went back to England and said concerning the whole thing where they summoned a demon out in the desert, I believe it was Hilarion, or the demon, the whore of Babylon or something like that. They summoned some demon out in the desert and doing some like ritual like Jim Morrison and the Doors. Took a bunch of dancing girls out there apparently. And they didn't do the banishing or like the banishing ritual, I guess, at all. And Crowley was appalled by this, that they didn't maintain their composure after the ritual was successful and comport themselves like in a graceful sort of way. Now that's a lot coming from someone like Crowley, who, when he was called the wickedest man in the world, like was proud of that, sort of like calling Ozzy the Prince of Darkness. He adopted that as his title forever. So Crowley went back to England and said those guys are crazy. And we know what happened to them. Jack Parsons blew himself up. L. Ron Hubbard became a laughingstock and created Scientology, which to this day only serves as a foil against Zionist interests in Hollywood, because let's face it, they run Hollywood way more than the Masons do. The Masons were relatively conservative. You can't say the Weimar Republic situation that we live in now is anything close to conservative. The only book burning that happened during Nazi Germany was when the Hitler Youth went out to Magnus Hirschfeld's laboratory where they were doing the first sex change experiments and burned all his notes. That's your great book burning. Wouldn't it be amazing to see that again? Now we have thousands of doctors doing that. They stopped it at 1. They threatened to overthrow the entire world over that. And look at what we have today. Just delayed it. Just delayed it by 60, 70 years. They had to assassinate an American president, get America into a war in Vietnam. I wonder how many of these have been held upside down. I'll take a look at them from here on out and make sure I'm holding them right side up. Apologies if I've held half of these upside down. You get what you pay for, and this show is free. So, I'm going to have to, wow, that's going to be a lot of editing if like 20 of these are upside down. That's really embarrassing. That's what you get for not looking at them. But yeah, so Aleister Crowley, the wickedest man in the world. And he, wrote his whole grimoire about his channeling experiences. And the reason I named this channel Alpha Channel, in 3D graphics, not 3D graphics, but 2D graphics as in television and film, when you create a cutout in a screen and you show something through it, like a silhouette. Like let's say you do a silhouette like a pair of sunglasses, and you show stuff through the background. That's called an alpha channel. And basically what you have is a black silhouette of this against a white background, or a white silhouette of this against a black background. And then you tell the computer to ignore black or white and to pass through and to show what's underneath, the footage playing underneath. So that's an alpha channel. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that, but some of you may not know the technical term. There are also legal and illegal colors in TV. Here, for example, these two copies of the robe that I've got here. This faded red, let's do the backs. This faded red is still red. This bright red, if I were to bump up the saturation, could be considered illegal. And it causes the TVs to freak out, and they basically like melt down and don't portray the image correctly. And when you get something that's too white or too hot, this screen will give you distortion. With the NTSC digital stuff, it's different sort of distortion than with the NTSC broadcast, where it's interlaced. That's different than the sort of distortion you get with digital. Digital distortion, you get those people who look like, reptilians. And that's probably because the colors or the whites are too hot, and the chip is unable to, it's not that it's unable to read it, it's that it's out of its bounds to light it in the screen. It can read a lot more than it can light. It can process more light than it can push out. And speaking of, I don't know if you guys heard, but Sony has a new camera that doesn't have a shutter that came out earlier this year. It's a shutterless camera. It works a lot more like the human eye. It takes something like, I want to say 40,000 frames per second, which sounds insane. I don't think that's possible. And when you really think about it, the hard drive space that requires, the solid state hard drive space is, oh my God, I don't even want to. So, continuing with the Wildwood Tarot, going through every card today, and I'm just running my mouth while I do it. There was an ugly spirit metaphor in the zero thing today that I took notes about, and they really sort of ignored the duality of man, the born to kill and the peace button that Joker wears in Full Metal Jacket. Where I was talking about the other day, you have the right side of your brain, which is all empathy, and the left side of your brain, which is eat, F, kill. F being the F word, but all logistics, the executive side. And if you don't balance those two sides, you get odd results in personality tests. Personality tests are a trick. What they do is they'll have like 120 questions, but it's really 30 questions asked 4 different ways. Each question is asked 4 different ways to get a consistent result. Or maybe they have 150 questions and it's 30 questions asked 5 different ways to get a consistent result, to figure out if you're faking, whether or not you're really an introvert or an extrovert. And most people, let's be honest, sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't. It depends the crowd of people that you're with. If you're with a bunch of strangers, me right now could be an extrovert in any crowd. I've accomplished so many fucking things, and I think I'm so smart, and I'm so high on my own supply. I've been up and down, as Frank Sinatra says. So I've been around, and I haven't been broken by the world. I'm not an addict. I'm not bitter. I'm not trapped somewhere in some job that I hate. Those things matter. I had a girl, I was talking to a friend, an artist friend of mine, like a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about how if her circumstances were right, it would change her personality a lot. But she didn't allow the same thing for guys. She didn't allow the same thing for other people, which I think probably goes for all of us. We are all in our own way really, really, really struggling and not acknowledging that everyone else we run into is too. I remember I got a job for a chauffeuring company before I had my job doing, it was after I had my job doing ADT door-to-door sales before COVID. height of the culture war, after Trump, when I just couldn't get work in Hollywood anymore as a white U.S. Marine Corps veteran who pretty much, I'm not a bully. I'm really kind of, my personality is way more like a rescuer, you know, the white knight. Because I guess you could call me a simp back then. I didn't skate yet, but I'd had 10 years of Kung Fu. And I took a job at a chauffeuring company where they were paying us next to nothing. And the other guys doing the same work that we would talk to out in the field, meaning like out picking people, expensive people up from the airport and then taking them to wherever. In really nice vehicles. They were getting paid double what we were. A lot of them had benefits. And I remember thinking to myself that the couple who ran the company must have incurred so much debt, either in buying it or maintaining the fleet of vehicles, or something had happened that they were just buried in debt, and this is what they had to do to get by. And I remember feeling terrible for them and wanting to be a team player and do everything I could do, but I just couldn't afford it. You know, I had too many debts of my own. Sorry, I'm taking this one down a little bit too quick. And couldn't do that. But this book, The Robe, is the book that I read while I was in the Marine Corps, and it taught me the value of being a team player in all situations. And I learned that in the Marine Corps anyhow. The Marine Corps was really like a bit of a reading plan in that you had a lot of downtime. You had a lot of hurry up and wait. And if you had a book that you could pull out of your cargo pocket, and while everyone else is sitting around pretending to sleep, that was kind of, it was a good way to escape the drudgery of peacetime military. There's nothing more useless than peacetime military. And everybody let you know it from top to bottom. The whole society let you know it. Societies look at military in the 90s was a holdover from the Vietnam era. And so you were a wannabe baby killer. You were a wannabe serial killer. You were a loser. You couldn't get into college. You were all the pejoratives they could heap upon you, except the one pejorative they never called you. They never called you any of these things to your face. And they never called you a pussy anymore. No one ever accused you of being a coward. When you come back home to a small town after spending 4 years in the Marine Corps, no one talks shit to you anymore. Especially when you look like I do, and you went in looking like I was what was called a double rat. Double rations because I was really skinny. I'm still pretty skinny for the Marine Corps. I've been up to 30 pounds heavier than I am right now. I'm just fit because I work out all the time. I don't eat junk food. I drink junk food. I drink a lot of orange juice, and it gets pretty much the bad rap, same sort of rap as here we go, 7 of O's, clearance. Kind of a bad, orange juice gets a bad rap as yeah, that's the last one. It's as bad for you as Gatorade almost. You know, Gatorade is almost as bad for you as Coca-Cola. You know, they used to give armies sugar to whack them out, like to get them hopped up to get them ready for battle, which makes sense if you ever give a bunch of little kids sugar and watch what happens. And the word infantry comes from the word infant, child soldiers. Because the old men planning these stuff and financing the campaigns, kind of arcades. Agamemnon, wouldn't it be great if kings could fight their own battles? You know, in the book, in the Iliad, Agamemnon's a badass, and Agamemnon would have given Achilles a run for his money. In the movie, I suppose that's a little bit more realistic in that Brian Cox in his youth might have given Brad Pitt at his peak a run for his money. It's possible. You never know. Anyone can pull a win out, you know. I watched the first season of this new show, Those About to Die, where the big steroid dude gets killed by the little African. And You know, if mom hadn't poisoned him first, at least it's realistic in that sense. So that show's really bad. This one guy, Scorpus, always talking about himself in the third person. So, yeah. That's it for today. All right. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do... Oh, well, it's going to be hard to get to. I'll show you all the cards and we'll pick a deck. Probably one of the Imaginarium decks. They're really small, but if I hold them up to the camera, you'll get to see them. And there's 52, and I think I have 2 decks. So maybe we'll read the combat decks too, or conflicted decks at some point. That'd be a fun thing to do. There's a couple of those I don't have, so that'd be very cool. Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.